And I guess I was kind of struck on these things because I could just sit and look at them. We were having a problem with our insect control at this particular time. The Colorado potato beetle was getting a resistance to all the insecticides that we were using. This is a field of Norchip potatoes. This potato came from Minnesota. We brought it down, we grew it. It was a little knobby, but it made better potato chips than Superior, but they were uglier. So I really didn't like this potato as much, but the chippers did. As you can see, it doesn't bloom as well, has a different color. This is a field of red potatoes. All red potatoes generally have a pink or lavender blossom. This was for fresh market only, and my good friend at the Crossett Company, Mary Franks, would buy as many potatoes as I could dig. This is all sandy loam. We could run the diggers 5 miles an hour. They're big harvesters. You'll see one in a minute. And they would pick the potatoes up and load them into big bins, and then they would go into trucks. And, my wife used to say anybody that would do this would have to have something wrong with them to work that hard, but we loved it. We were young, we didn't know any better. This was one of the harvesters. As you can see, there's all kinds of chains. They generally work off of gravity. The potatoes go up these big chains, fall onto other big chains. As you can see, the potatoes fall through, but the trash goes out the back. Well, all the trash doesn't, but most of it does. There's a snap and roll on the end, which gets 90% of the rest of it. The pitch of the conveyors pitch the potatoes farther than the dirt. As you can see here, see how the potatoes going over there? The dirt's back on this side. As it comes up this conveyor, then it goes on to what they call a picking table. And at this point, you can see the grass going out this side. It was being dumped back onto the ground, and the potatoes themselves were now on their way to the wagon. Wherever they were going probably didn't last too long. They were off the farm. At one time, I think Dad told me, he said, I believe if you ate a potato in northern Kentucky, you probably ate a Hempfling potato. We sold to Kroger's, we sold to everybody, anybody that wanted a potato. We were close to home. We didn't have the freight. All we sold was a potato. This is the front of the digger. There are 2 big coulters right here in the front that cut anything that hangs over this nose to keep from making the potatoes drag as they go through there. And that's not a good picture, but you get the idea. Here's throwing stuff over the back. And the potatoes are going into the wagon. This is a lot of chipping potatoes, my favorite potato, Superior, Michigan. And these particular potatoes all went to Louisville because Louisville was the closest big plant that Frito-Lay had, and they wanted our potatoes in there because they were making more off of our potatoes. But the funny thing was we were making more off of them because we didn't have to do all the bagging. So everybody was happy in that particular instance. And when that truck was loaded, there would be 50,000 pounds. There would be 4 feet inside that bed that was solid potatoes, excluding just those knolls at the top. That was just, they all settled down pretty much. George and Wanda, you'll see some people here that you probably know in a few minutes. They're gone now, but that's Henry McMurray. This was my smallest loader. Now, sometimes we had to load these other van trucks. And there's another conveyor that was fit on the end of there. It didn't take me too long to realize that there had to be a better way to get those in that truck. So, and I don't have a picture of that. I only had that piece of equipment for about, I guess I had it 5 years. But I never took, the whole time it was there, I never took a picture of it. These are just potatoes rolling out of the wagon. See how round they are? Now here's Henry, and my brother at one time, I suppose he probably was one of the best growers in the whole of northern Kentucky on bedding plants. I told him to act normal. So this is normal. But when he started out, he had some of the most beautiful hanging baskets. We sold the Rimke's and McHale's in those days, Kroger's, and we even sent all the Natorp stores. There were as many in those days, but we even sent them north. I don't know who all those people were, because Mark was the one that was in charge of that. But he was a good grower, and I'll tell you, we made more money when we were small than when we were big in the flower business. That's a fuchsia, and it's called dark eyes. And that is a beautiful picture, and most times I show this. But that's Lilani Mahan. And I was responsible for growing the greenhouse tomatoes. I did all the tests, all the test varieties in my greenhouses, and she worked with me for years. And she loved those tomato plants, and they never grew better when she took care of them. And she's showing me what she's done. I kind of got this backwards. This is an early picture of before the tomatoes went in. But when I realized I needed something to take to these shows when I would go to do these presentations, it was kind of take it when you can get it. This is a drip irrigation line, which I'm sure probably some of you use. But back in those days, that was cutting edge technology. It was really cutting when somebody would cut it with a hoe. You have one good wet spot. I loved the greenhouse tomatoes. They were fun to grow. Of course, the straw kept any. This was all fumigated with a chemical called Vorlex, which eventually killed the guy that was putting the applicators into these greenhouses. Now you couldn't do it that way. But those are some tomatoes getting ready to go in. Those are just planted in pots. At the far end are hanging geraniums, something that Mark was experimenting with. That's the only reason why we kept our edge in the beginning, was because we were constantly trying to figure out a better way. Sometimes we found one, sometimes we didn't. But it was fun then. We had fun in those days. These are seedling geraniums, and he would buy them already started, and then we would plant them in here. Thousands of them. We'd just go through, we'd plant thousands of those things. And my wife was actually working on the farm in those days with Mark's first wife, and they probably planted most of these. These are some peaches blooming. It's a beautiful picture most times. But as you can see, there's a lot of blooms on there. That's Norma and Jackie, my daughter. Norma's my mother-in-law. She didn't actually know I was doing that, and I can't figure out for the life of me what in the world she was looking for. That's right out from my house. I think she finally saw me and she was hiding. This is a peach variety called Redskin. It was late. And right behind this, you'll see a green one and a green section, and those were actually later than the Redskin. The Redskin was the first week of September, and I can't remember exactly when. These are nectarines. This variety, I got a few of those trees from a company, it was Hartford, Michigan, and they were so beautiful that we finally planted an orchard of them. I apologize that you can't really see them. But that's Dempsey Moore. And they were big. They were beautiful. They had a wonderful flavor for a nectarine. A lot of nectarines are hard. People think you should eat them like apples. No, that's not the way you eat nectarines, nor peaches. They should be soft, they should smell, and when you bite into them, you should feel the juice run down your chin. Then you know you've got a good peach or nectarine. Those were only picked by us. We never let anybody in those orchards. And this is some of the people that would come and visit us. And you see their fence broken. I remember the day the lady went through that. She said, I was just looking at the over there. And I said, okay. And that's it. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to entertain those. And you're welcome to come and look at our paper cuttings.
Do you not have any operation there at all now? Are you not raising any
No,
crops for sale?
no, it was, there were too many changes in our operation and the way we had to do things. I grew pumpkin, my last year growing apples was 1997 on my farm. And that was a year that I had a great crop one morning and that afternoon I had nothing. And I decided in 97 that would be it. And I sold most of those apples to people that were hunting deer. They were so bad.
Wow.
So, and my father and my younger brother continued on until 2003. And at that point in time, I now work for the USDA APHIS PPQ. And I have to travel over the whole country. And I work in emergency programs and I run emergency programs. And I had to go to California for 6 weeks. And while I was out there, I called my dad once in a while because I always felt like maybe I could see what he's up to. So, you know, if he was sick or whatever. And he told me, he says, you know, he says, I'm ready to sell. And of course, every time he sells a piece of property, I go to pieces. So, you know, I wasn't really wanting to hear that on the other side of the world here. So when I got home, I had been approached by a guy from Burlington there, and he said, we need so much property for a park to, he didn't even ask me for our property. He said to fill in our master plan. And I said, well, at this point in time, I may know somebody that will be able to help you out. How much you need? He said, oh, we want about 100 acres, but we can't afford it or something. and anyway, I told my dad, and he said, I'm willing to work with them. So that's where that went.
Mr. Hempfling, you said you were on did you say a national potato board?
Yes.
What exactly is that?
Well, have you ever seen these things on TV where it tells you to buy Maine potatoes or Michigan potatoes? Well, we did that. And one of the other things that we did back in those days was we would go to the governors of our states and we would get them to put a proclamation into effect for Potato Lovers Month. And I was just young and I knew absolutely nothing about anything like that. So I thought, man, this sounds fun. So I took off to Frankfurt one winter, just by myself. I just took off down there and I met with the Commissioner of Agriculture. And I don't remember his name, but he was an elderly, white-haired guy. And for some reason, he liked me. And I have no clue why. And he liked me and he said, well, let's go see the governor. Well, I was getting a little nervous. I thought, maybe this is turning into a fiasco here. I don't know if I want to see a governor. Well, we got over there and he wasn't there. And it was Carol and then John Y. Brown and the lady, what was her name? Martha Lane. She was really nice to me. And one other one. Anyway, I stayed on that for longer than I should have. And but the only reason was whenever they would call me, I would do something, I guess. And finally I figured out you gotta quit doing this if you want off of this. It's kinda like the Farm Bureau Board, you know, once you're on there, they expect you to die there.
Okay.
Any other questions? So, what are your father and your brother doing then?
Well, my father is retired, and his major job is getting in his truck every morning and going to Hebron to make sure it's still there. And my brother works for DHL.
Well, Hebron is growing by leaps and bounds, so I don't think it's going to go anywhere.
I thought I was gonna be late getting here tonight. I couldn't even get out to the gas station.
Well, thank you very much. That was very interesting.
Thank you
And
for having me.
we will have these for all of us to look over if you're not in a hurry.
No, that's why I brought them.
Great. Well, this is just a little token that the society gives to our guest speakers.
Thank you.
We appreciate it very much.
Well, thank you very much.
And with that, I'll declare the meeting adjourned so that we can look over his clippings.
If you have any questions, just ask me. My mother seemed to think that everybody would know what year this was. Well, I know some of them.